Okay, let's unpack this. Um, Imagine a political earthquake, you
Yeah.
know, rumbling through one of the biggest cities in the world.
Right. A big one.
Yeah, a shift so significant. Few people really saw it coming. That's precisely the phenomenon we're diving into today.
Okay.
Our focus is the truly meteoric rise of Zohran Mamdani in New York City politics.
Mm-hmm.
We pulled a core article, Mamdani's Meteoric Rise, a turning point in New York politics.
Okay.
And, well, it sparked this entire deep dive.
Got it.
So our mission for you today is to extract the most important nuggets about this political upheaval, Mamdani's background, his platform, and, what this all might signal for the future.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, isn't just a single election outcome.
Right.
It's what it signals about broader societal trends and aspirations. We'll certainly drill down into the specifics of his victory, but yeah, our goal is also to connect this to the much bigger picture.
Okay, so to truly understand this
Yeah.
seismic shift, we first need to get acquainted with the man at its center, Zohran Mamdani.
Right. Who is he?
The sources paint a picture of a 33-year-old democratic socialist and housing activist who just clinched the Democratic primary for New York City mayor.
Wow.
And this wasn't just any win, our source calls his unseating of former Governor Andrew Cuomo a genuine seismic shift.
Yeah, considering Cuomo's name recognition and, well, his whole political legacy, that is seismic.
Exactly.
It was indeed a powerful upset. And what's interesting, as the article points out, is how his background seems to inform his worldview.
How so?
Well, Mamdani isn't your typical political insider, right? Born in Kampala, Uganda, raised right here in New York. His personal history seems deeply interwoven with his public life.
Absolutely. And the source highlights the influence of his parents, too. His mother, the filmmaker Mira Nair, and his father, scholar Mahmoud Mamdani.
You can definitely see echoes of that diverse perspective in his approach.
Yeah. And before he even stepped into the electoral spotlight, he was working as a foreclosure prevention counselor. That's quite telling.
Definitely grounding work.
He first entered politics in 2020, elected to the New York State Assembly. Part of that wave, backed by the Democratic Socialists of America.
Right, the DSA slate, a movement that's been, increasingly advocating for pretty systemic economic and social changes.
For sure.
Yes. And by 2025, the article suggests he'd evolved from being like just a neighborhood activist to really embodying a generational political reckoning. It's quite a remarkable trajectory in just a few short years.
Remarkable truly captures it. This primary election, as the source describes, it genuinely shocked the nation.
I bet.
Mamdani's victory over Andrew Cuomo, who, as you said, is a household name.
Right. Deep political roots and definitely no stranger to controversy.
Not at all. So that win was both symbolically powerful and strategically brilliant, it seems.
How did he pull it off strategically?
Well, Mamdani ran a campaign rooted in grassroots organizing, fervent tenant advocacy, and a really clear vision for wealth redistribution.
Okay, grassroots focus.
And here's where it gets really compelling. He was outspent nearly 10 to 1.
10 to 1.
Wow.
Yeah. His campaign tactically focused on voter turnout in historically underserved boroughs like the Bronx and Queens.
Smart. Go where the voters are often overlooked.
Exactly. And the source says it worked. Mamdani won by double digits.
Double digits against Cuomo.
That's huge. What this victory truly underlines for us, I think, is a pivotal shift.
What kind of shift?
In modern political landscapes, robust grassroots mobilization, especially when it's community-driven and, authentic, it's proving it can effectively neutralize vast financial disparities. It's maybe not just a one-off win, it's potentially a blueprint for underdogs everywhere.
That's a huge takeaway. So if we look at the core of his platform then, it's truly an unapologetic progressive agenda.
Okay, like what specifically?
Well, his key policy proposals are pretty direct and ambitious. A citywide rent freeze and expanded public housing.
Big ones.
Bold municipal Green New Deal initiatives, proposals for defunding and, reimagining the NYPD.
Always controversial.
Definitely. Steep taxes on the ultra-rich to fund social programs and expanded protections for gig economy workers and immigrants. It's a full slate.
You're right. These ideas, they were once considered quite fringe, weren't they?
Absolutely.
But they are undeniably gaining significant traction, especially, it seems, among Gen Z and millennial voters.
Yeah, the generational aspect is key.
Exactly. What the source particularly highlights is the stark generational divide we saw in this election.
Right. Younger, working-class voters overwhelmingly backed Mamdani, while older, wealthier New Yorkers leaned toward Cuomo.
Yeah. This signals a growing voter appetite for what some might call unapologetically progressive policies. It's moving them from the sort of
Like into
fringe
the mainstream conversation.
right into mainstream political viability.
That generational divide is incredibly insightful. But the article also touches on the feasibility of these policies, doesn't it?
It does.
How does the source address concerns that some of these proposals, like, say, a citywide rent freeze, might have unintended economic consequences, maybe for landlords or new development?
Yeah, that's a crucial point the source definitely acknowledges. It notes that critics, particularly from, real estate and more fiscally conservative viewpoints,
Yeah.
they argue such policies could stifle investment and maybe even reduce housing supply in the long run.
Okay, so that's one side.
But Mamdani's proponents, as detailed in the article, they counter that these measures are, well, necessary to combat escalating inequality.
Right, the core justification.
Yeah, and that the economic benefits of increased stability for working-class residents outweigh these potential concerns. So the source really presents it as a core ideological debate wrapped up in that economic feasibility discussion.
Makes sense. Okay, so with such a dramatic upset in New York City, the obvious question on everyone's mind kind of pivots to the national stage.
Yeah.
What could this mean for the Democratic Party as a whole? Is this the future of the party? Can a candidate with little institutional backing genuinely beat seasoned politicians with established networks?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And our source presents two pretty distinct sides of this argument.
Go.
On one hand, you have those who unequivocally say, yes, and Mamdani is their proof.
Okay.
They see his victory as a clear signal that America is ready for bolder, more systemic reform.
Pushing the party leftward.
Exactly. But then conversely, others warn that such progressive ideals, while definitely energizing the base, might alienate crucial moderate and swing voters in broader national elections.
The electability argument.
Precisely. They often question the economic feasibility of some of Mamdani's proposals, especially, amid fears of a slowing national economy.
Right.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see how this outcome really sparks critical discussions about party strategy, voter sentiment across the country.
Yeah, influencing everything from platform planks to, well, who even gets picked as a candidate?
Absolutely. It's got wide ripples.
That's a truly nuanced picture. And actually, as we were sifting through the layers of this story, we stumbled upon something genuinely unexpected. Kind of humorous, actually.
Ooh, yeah. What's that?
A tangential detail, the source pointed out. Alongside the huge surge in online searches for Mamdani, the politician, there was also a noticeable bump in queries about the Mamdani inference model.
Implied light chuckle. Get out. From Fuzzy Logic.
From Fuzzy Logic, of all things.
That is quite the amusing coincidence, really.
But let's be super clear for everyone listening. That's just a funny byproduct of a shared surname.
Right.
Most people searching weren't suddenly diving into artificial intelligence algorithms.
No, they were watching a new political star emerge, a real person making real waves.
Exactly. So, okay, primary one, what comes next? Mamdani's biggest test lies ahead, right? The general election for mayor looms large.
For sure.
And while New York traditionally leans blue,
it's not a given. His critics, especially, real estate developers and maybe more conservative Democrats, they're certainly expected to mount fierce opposition.
they won't just roll over.
Absolutely not. There's a lot at stake for them.
Still, Mamdani's team seems ready for that fight. Their strategy, as the source notes, it hinges on continuing that same powerful grassroots engagement.
Makes sense. Stick with what worked.
Yeah. Building multi-ethnic coalitions,
Yeah.
and keeping the conversation laser-focused on those core issues: inequality, housing, justice.
It sounds like they're betting on the momentum of their message carrying through.
Seems like it.
So what does this all mean for you, listening in? This week's Mamdani search trend, as our sources so vividly show, tells a deeper story. It's not about abstract algorithms, obviously.
Right.
It's about aspiration, about the potential for real political change. It's about a city and quite possibly a nation asking, what if politics could truly be different?
A big question.
Yeah. What if someone who champions, pretty radical ideas about justice and equity actually wins at the highest level?
Yeah.
In this moment, Mamdani isn't just a candidate. He's become a potent symbol. And for many, he represents a tangible promise of change.
Which really raises an important question for you to consider. How might a victory for a candidate like Mamdani in a major city reshape the political landscape? Not just locally, but nationally.
Yeah, what could that ripple effect look like?
And what could that mean for the issues you care about most? Keep exploring these fascinating themes because the ripples of this story, well, they're just beginning.